So here we are. This is the reveal now of the Trumpeter 1/32 Stuka. That's the A version, known as the Anton. A1, I believe. Might be A0, not sure. Doesn't really matter. It's only really the rudder. It's either straight or it's curved. Yeah, well, this has been a big build. This has been probably 19 months now. It's been a very long-winded process with lots of ups and downs, and it did break me a couple points, but it's finished now, and that's all that matters. And yeah, so this was a learning curve as far as working in the scale. So this is my first 1/32 kit that I started. The first one I finished was the Polycarpov I16 from Azure, and a lot of new techniques employed in this. So with painting using die cut masks for the roundels and the numbers on the edges there. Using different sort of oil techniques as well to try and get the dust going. I don't know if you'll see that from where you are, but as I get in a bit closer, you should it should show up. And tried to correct stuff. So I have super detailed this quite a bit. It's got a full Edward big edge set, which is all in the cockpit, apart from one some flaps that go in here. I corrected the struts. Not struts, sorry, I corrected these wheel spats, which are trousers, I think, in this case, actually. And because they're not quite the right profile, so I just cut a bit off the end and to make them more of a sort of diagonal, like that. Sorted out the propeller, so drilled out some holes here and added the trusty propeller logos there from Junkers. Removed, there's some unique features on this one, this 295. The story behind this is there were 4 A's sent out, so it was 291 to 4. 4 got some flak damage and got sent back to Junkers, and then they sent out a replacement, which was this one, numbered 5. And it had quite a different camouflage scheme, so they pretty much eliminated ROM 63 from the fuselage, whereas on the 1 to 4 there was quite sort of from the middle there back was the grey colour, ROM 63. Because as you can see here, it's a lot more green and brown. And they were starting to move towards that as obviously half a year to a year had gone on since it had been there, so things had changed. They also got rid of the aerial masts, so the earlier ones had 2 aerial masts sticking out of here and going back to there with some antennas, and that was all gone on this one. I don't know whether they removed the radio equipment or had a different way of doing it. I probably think it didn't come with the radio equipment, is my guess, because obviously the B had an antenna, so there was no antenna on this. It had a different colour on the nose cone as well, which was black. It seems to be best thought, but obviously no one really knows. There's a few pictures of this one specifically, so I was able to work out the camouflage pattern. Yes, I also found, this was something I didn't realise until I was halfway through the painting process, they'd obviously reused a window pane, because if you see here, I've replicated it. In one of the pictures, it's quite striking that it's all green, and then there's this great big line with a lighter colour, so I've added that in. I don't know why that happened, but obviously they reused a window pane there. I have done quite a bit more to this, but I can't remember at the minute. I'm sure it will come to me. Oh yeah, removed Trumpeter, because they use the same wings on the B series. It tells you to put a machine gun here and there, but the A's only had a machine gun on this side, so you've got to fill all of this and sort that out. The wings were a nightmare. The join is here in the middle, so you've got a seam line down there, which never fills. It's an absolute ridiculous way to go about it, but anyway, that's how they did it. It'd be much better to have this as a complete mould, glue that together, and have the fuselage, the wing join there. But what you actually get is you get a wing root join here, and then you get another join there, and on it goes. I would say it probably was the A-team from Trumpeter on this one, but it is a little bit tricky in places, so some strange sort of mistakes. This has now been brought out in 1/24 scale as well, so it's just a scaled up version of this. So if any of you are looking at getting that, then there's a few things I'll have the blog post. There's a link on below, so if any of you want to do any of the improvements that I've talked about, they'll all be on that blog post once this video is up. Important to note, painting the rear of the propeller blades there. To stop the glare in Spain, they plated the back of them black, and they're an aluminium spinner. Also, if you're doing an earlier one, they have a different marking scheme there on the propeller as well. They've got the red, yellow, red on the tips of the propellers. So let's have a look in the cockpit. I'm not sure how much I can really show you. You might be able to see a bit in there. I've added all the wiring, so all that yellow, that's lead wiring that I added. It runs all the way around. And I've added another one of the quick boost. That's another one of the gun sights from Quick Boost in there. So again, resin gun sight, that's very good. Instrument panel is Edward with PVA glue to give the lensing effect. It's not showing up well here, but like I said, I'll get some pictures. You can actually see through there. You see that clear bit? That's the window for the bomb aimer. So it's quite nice that you actually see that in this scale showing through. You've got the radio equipment back there, which is etched metal, all bent around, and then you've got the some coloured etch panels. The clear parts are absolutely crystal clear, so that is one good thing that Hobby Boss and Trumpeter always manage to do. They're very well protected and extremely clear. And I got a mass set from Edward in the Big Ed set, which was invaluable in this case. And there's the unique opening that you get from the canopy here. It does actually go back a lot further. When you see the pictures, that's how far back it is. But Trumpeter really want you probably back at this angle here, more sort of upright. So it's hardly resting there, and I've knocked them off 4 times already. So when I start taking this on the route around the shows, I can imagine I'm going to be gluing them on every single time. But that's not a problem. And hopefully you can see some of the dust effects here. Like I said, I've got good reference pictures. That's one thing that shows up with the dust. So I've used a mix of pigments there, some of the Flory Models wash, oils pushed straight into a matte coat there. And that's all I've really tried to do, is get the panel lines showing and get some dust on there and a few sort of marks like this. It wasn't really a banged up aircraft at all. It was quite new, as I said, with the story, so didn't want to go too mad on it. It was finished in MRP lacquers, so that's ROM 61, 63, and green is 62, so that's the early war splinter camouflage pattern that was used on these aircraft and other bombers up until the Poland campaign, and then they moved to the traditional 71 and 70 over 65, the blues 65 as well. You get a decal in the Montex sheet. That's where I got the mass from, and that is the decal there for the company that this was attached to, which has escaped me at the minute. I've got the 500 kilo bomb under there as well, which this was the only aircraft at the time that was capable of taking off with a 500 kilogram bomb. However, it had to be flown solo for that. The B could do it with 2 people. And it was used to great effect. That was, well, depending on where you come down, obviously it was quite destructive. The Germans, being the Germans with the Condor Legion, they made sure they knew what those 500 kilo bombs did, and they were measuring the damage effect from these, where they were bombing them in some of the Spanish towns, which was quite a destructive time, and unfortunately that led to them realising just how destructive some of these bombing campaigns were, how useful the Stuka was, and led to everything you sort of saw in the Second World War. So that's where it all started, here in Spain. And, well, yeah, there we go. So this is my favourite kit to date by a long way. This is going to go pride of place in my collection, and it's going to go all around the shows. So if you're going to any shows where I am, so it's going to be starting at Telford, which will probably be before already gone by the time this video is out, but it will be doing the shows, and I hope everyone comes and have a look at it. I've done a little base there as well, which I think is quite effective, and I'm really happy with it, and I hope you like the videos that are to come, and you like the build yourself. Let me know in the comments how you feel. Give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if not already, and I will see you in the next video.